I just wish I could have seen a video of someone being like, yeah, I've had LILETTA for years now and here's where I'm at. And if you're having that kind of pain, it's just not worth it. Hey, how are ya? I'm really glad to be back filming. I had a bit of a stint in the ER and it was kind of scary. And today I'm going to be explaining why. Obviously, if you read the title, it means that it has something to do with my old contraception, which was an IUD. I'm going to jump straight into it. I just want to make sure that this is lined up okay. My name is MJ. This is my channel. I just talk about whatever I want, usually commentary, sometimes lifestyle. And I have some coffee. Can you see? Not sponsored, just. I love it. Okay. I don't know why I'm nervous. Why do I get like this right before I turn the camera on? I'm like, ooh, you know, like it feels like sometimes I am talking to so many people. Hold on, you've got a little something. Got a little something right there. All right, I guess I'll start from the beginning. Yes, a lot of birth control methods are effective and safe, but everyone's experience is a little bit different. I have had or did have my LILETTA IUD since April of 2017. I had it for 4 years, which is a very long time, and I have not really seen any videos about LILETTA, which is technically speaking Mirena. They are the same. LILETTA is only different in the way that it's been tested in the length of time that it lasts for. But I didn't really see a lot of people talking about their experience for a long period of time, and especially to validate some of the concerns that maybe someone watching this might have about their IUD. You know, it can be a little difficult to find someone who's had it for such a long period of time. Usually you either love it and you talk about how much you love it and you've had it for a year or two or whatever, or you hate it and you have it removed. My story is a little bit different. So by the way, this video is going to have some more graphic speak about some bodily fluids and stuff. If that's not your gig, if that just freaks you out, I'm not forcing you to watch this. And I will be referencing female body and anatomy and everything. And if that also isn't something that you're super comfortable with, which I don't know why it wouldn't be, because there's nothing weird about it at all. But if you are, you don't have to watch this, it's fine. I'm pretty open about this. I don't care that it's on the internet. I feel like this helps more people and it should be a broader conversation and it shouldn't be something that anyone's ashamed of or afraid to talk about. For my birth control, I started on the pill when I was like 15 or 16. I tried 2 different kinds of pill. Seriously gave me suicidal ideations. I wanted so badly to off myself. That is so dark, but I really did. It didn't work. I didn't get the option to skip my periods like some people do. I always just had it on time, no matter what. I went on it because my periods had gotten so heavy and so painful. I remember one of the last bad periods that I had, I basically passed out. Hit my head on the bathroom floor, and it could have been a really bad situation. I was concussed for 3 or 4 days. After my mom came and got me and found me like that, she was like, okay, we got to do something about this because this is too much. You shouldn't be going through this. At this point, you're probably asking yourself, well, MJ, did you go and check anything out? That sounds really bad. Yes, they just said I had a heavy period. Quickly got off that. I spent about 4 months not on anything, and then started kind of seeing a guy more seriously, and I was like, this isn't something I want to worry about anymore. So I was like, I'm just gonna get an IUD because the fear I had of getting pregnant was just too. I'm one of those people that believes that something's gonna go through the condom and just somehow magically get me pregnant. I literally have so much fear around it because I do not want that right now in my life. I have 5 younger siblings and I have always been around kids and babies, and I feel like I just got done raising children and helping my mom, and I do not want to go back down that road. So I needed something that was going to be really effective and stop my awful, awful periods. That felt like it was going to be an IUD. So I made an appointment. I did some research on the kind that I wanted. I didn't want the copper one. I wanted one with hormones. I heard the copper one made you bleed more, and I was like, how would that even be possible for me? I made an appointment at Planned Parenthood. I told them I wanted the Mirena one. They said, okay, sure. I came in. I wasn't on my period when I had it inserted. I think I had either just finished or was like spotting or something. So I know you're supposed to make insertion. Sometimes it's not as painful or anything, but why can I not remember where I was? Okay. women either experience no pain having their IUD inserted or it's catastrophic. So I was very worried about what that was going to look like. I had taken 800 milligram of ibuprofen in preparation. I tried to keep myself as calm as possible. At this point, it's important to note that I have never broken anything. I've never gone under, I've never done surgeries. I've never even had a cavity filled, but I do have a pretty high pain tolerance. Still, I remember I was trying to talk to this woman. I'm like, how many of these have you put in? I'm super nervous. This is like as natural as breathing air to me. I've put in thousands of these at this point. I'm laying there. She gets the frickin', you know what I'm talking about. And there's a lot of pressure already. So I'm like, okay, this is already extremely uncomfortable. Then she starts to measure me. Anyway, I'm in agony and nothing's even really happened yet. She's just measuring me. I think she's actually placing it. I'm in for a rude awakening. I'm starting to make a lot of noises. I'm cussing, even though I don't want to, but I am. She keeps telling me it's okay, it's okay. I have done a lot of research on LILETTA versus Mirena versus all of these other IUDs. I've read the manuals that the nurses will read, that doctors will read to install, I hate to say install, but like place the IUD for somebody. There is an applicator that they use to place the IUD. The applicator that I had, I'm just mentioning this because I think it is a little bit important, but it was not the one that is used now. The one that I had, the applicator was a little bit more difficult to work with and everything. Not that the woman that I was placing mine had issues, but it's just something to keep in mind that the applicator has now changed and they've got one that's far easier. She starts to place it. She tells me I'm gonna feel pinches, like 4 pinches or whatever. I still can feel them to this day. I still remember them. It was such an excruciating pain. And I hate that because that's not every woman's experience, but guys, it was really, really, really bad. And I felt the 4 pinches that she was talking about. Don't quote me exactly on this, but I think it automatically like folds out once it's in place. It will kind of fold out in a little T shape. The little T shape, the wings will kind of come out. And so it takes a little bit of time for that to happen. And that was what I was feeling, was it kind of was being placed in position and opening. And I was at the absolute break, like, of telling her she needed to stop. She says she's all done. She cleans me up. I'm shaking. I'm laying there and I can't hear anything she's saying because I'm in so much pain. She comes over to me, pats my knee, gives me the little pamphlet of the IUD that I got, and then leaves. Tells me I can take my time if I want to get dressed, and then leaves. Even though I should not have probably gotten up because I still was having a lot of issues seeing straight. I put my clothes on. I stumbled out to the car to my mom. My mom took one look at me and just put me in the car. I felt like I was gonna throw up, and I think that was my mom's next concern for me, and I just didn't say anything, and I just laid there, and I got back to my house, laid down the rest of the day, had some cramping, it tapered off, went to work the next day, and for the next like 2 or 3 weeks, I had consistently in the morning for 4 or 5 hours extreme cramping. When I say extreme cramping, I'm not talking about period cramps. I'm talking about like cramps that are, I can't describe it any other way. I'm gonna just show you with my hands kind of what it felt like. It felt like I would feel it coming on, and it would be like this. I could feel the cramps coming on, and then they would start to get more and more, and it would kind of slow down for a minute, and then it would get more and more, and it would get stronger and stronger. It was like I was having a wave of this cramp that would just like stop me in my tracks. I would fold over wherever I was. Sitting hurt, moving hurt, and I would just have to stand there and just try to get over it. And then it would pass, and then it would start up again. And it's like I took pain medication. At this point, I think I was on like 1,000 or 1,200 milligrams of ibuprofen, and it wasn't doing anything. And I was like, okay, well, this extreme pain is just because the IUD is in place, and it's gonna take my body a little bit to adjust to it. Fine. A couple months goes by. I'm still getting this bad cramping. It's intermittent. It seems to happen randomly. It happens the most around when my cycle would be. I'm not really getting any bleeding or anything. That stopped pretty much immediately. I didn't have periods. And that was the main reason why, and I wasn't at risk of getting pregnant, which was the other reason why I had the IUD. So the only thing I was contending with was these cramps. I remember one night I was laying next to my boyfriend and I was sobbing. I had filled a mason jar full of boiling hot water, wrapped it in a towel, and I was using that as like something to try to calm my cramping down. And I was just sitting there fighting through these cramps, writhing in bed. I was in so much pain, and I was about a minute or 2 away. It was like 4 in the morning. I'm about to wake him up to have him take me to the emergency room to have this removed. I didn't want to because it's like it had cost $1,000, and I was under the impression that Planned Parenthood would have helped a little bit with that cost, but it ended up being, I think, basically the full amount. So I struggled the first year. I did get an ultrasound, checked me out. I was worried maybe something was wrong or had perforated or something. Gynecologist told me everything was fine and just to take ibuprofen when it was hurting me. And I'm like, great, thanks doc. You really get me. But otherwise it was fine. So I was like, well, if there's nothing going on, then I'm just gonna try to get through the pain. The end of that first year into the second year, I lost all desire to do anything physical with anyone. I had planned on this year having it taken out towards the end of the year. Maybe have a new one put in. And then I don't know, I hit a breaking point, and this past week I just was in agony and didn't know where else to go, so went to A&E. They gave me pain management. I showed up and I had a small fever, didn't have any infections. They did all of the blood work and everything. I will put photos up of my heart rate. It was just out of control because I was in so much pain and I was so afraid of having this thing removed. I knew that having it removed wasn't going to be nearly the same thing, but I have permanent trauma from that. And even just getting an ultrasound now or whatever, doing anything at the gynecologist, I get sent into a state of absolute panic, which is so terrible. They would not release me because my heart rate was so high. I was in the A&E for like 5 hours because they kept testing my heart rate and it was just so high it wouldn't come down. I spoke to the doctor. She wrote me up a letter and said, I'm gonna send you to get an ultrasound at the other wing at the hospital when it opens. They'll call you in a few days. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't wanna wait a few days, but I've waited 4 years and I've managed it for this long, so what's a few more days? Sure enough, they call me. I come in for the ultrasound. I'm nervous again because I know that I'm probably gonna have this thing removed. I loved the wing, the like section of the hospital that I was sent to. It was the early pregnancy and gynecology unit. It was all women and they were all just extremely amazing. I had an ultrasound with like one of the main women there. She assured me I didn't have fibroids, I didn't have cysts, it wasn't perforated. In fact, she showed me on the ultrasound, this thing is literally sitting perfectly. She's like, it's 2 centimeters in where it needs to be. It's placed exactly in the center. Nothing's wrong. I'm like, are you kidding me? Because I was convinced at this point that it had perforated, something was wrong. I'm like, how can I be in this much pain? Something has to be wrong. I had looked up, I was like, maybe my uterus is too small. Maybe I wasn't measured correctly. I was looking up user manuals, the size of the actual IUD, comparing it to other IUDs, trying to find women talking about what this was like for them. Couldn't find anything, especially anybody regarding LILETTA. So I get my ultrasound, she tells me everything's fine. She's like, the nurse is gonna discuss with you the results. And I'm like, okay. So I waited about an hour and a half. They come in, do my heart rate again. My heart rate is out of control, so we know it's because I'm freaking out. I sit down with my nurse, I explain to her what's going on. She's like, I can remove it for you. And I'm like, okay, right now? And she's like, yes, right now. And I'm like, okay, well, I want it out. It was a painful thing for me to even say the words because I was attached to it, you know? It had been with me for 4 years. I had gotten used to my body with this coil, with this IUD, and I was like, what is it going to be like when I get off? Am I going to get terrible periods again? Am I going to get really bad cramping still? Like, what am I going to be dealing with? Like, this thing has removed so much of the issues I had before, and it's doing what it's supposed to, which is make sure I don't get pregnant. You know, what's going to happen? That unknown was making me kind of scared, and I just felt emotional having it taken out. Of course, she puts me down on the table and I tell her, I'm like, listen, I have a lot of trauma from when this thing was inserted. I know you're not gonna put me under, but can you give me like the one local? Can you give me anything? She's like, no, it's literally gonna be so quick. And I'm like, oh. And I'm laying there and of course I start freaking out. She does that thing that opens you up and I feel a lot of pressure. So she tries to find it initially, like the strings, which I had checked. I've always checked the strings and they've always been in the right spot. She couldn't get to them because they had curved around my cervix. So she needed a different tool. So at this point, I'm fully crying my eyes out because I'm so afraid and it kind of hurts what she's doing. Like there's pressure and everything. She calls in another nurse because that other nurse is supposed to distract me because I am freaking out. Finally, she, with her other tool, she's like, take a deep breath. And I literally was like barely able to breathe. It comes right out. I hardly feel it. I don't even think I felt a cramp. I think I had so much adrenaline in my body at that point that I couldn't feel anything. Afterwards, she sits and talks to me and says, listen, if you are really having, you know, I don't doubt your pain. We didn't see anything on the ultrasound. It's possible that you have potentially endometriosis, but we just couldn't see it on the ultrasound. She's like, it's possible you have a small amount that we're not picking up on the ultrasound, but it is still there. She's like, it's not gonna hurt your fertility, because I told her that was my concern, was my, fertility, and if that was gonna be compromised in any way. So she's like, I highly encourage you, go to your doctor and get a referral to an outpatient unit to do more scans and see if you can figure out what's going on and why you're having this extreme pain. And I asked her, I was like, why did I have this pain on this IUD? Why did this go on for 4 years? And she's like, I don't know. There's a third of women who have who can't tolerate an IUD, and you're part of that 1/3. And obviously this didn't make me feel good. I felt sad when she told me this because I hate that. Like, that's not an answer, you know? And how can they not know why some women are tortured by IUDs and some aren't? I mean, we're talking about pain that is off the scale, you know? I would have done anything to go back in time, and it's the only regret I have, and have myself be put under for that procedure to have it placed, because I still get flashbacks to that. Like, it is actually extremely traumatic. And I fear when I'm going to move on to hopefully have kids one day, what that's gonna be like, because they're obviously gonna be poking around doing all these tests and looking at my uterus and this and that and checking the baby. I'm like, I'm gonna have to like get through that, and it's gonna be extremely difficult for me, all because of the way that this was done and how it was inserted to begin with. You know, I'm sitting here now and I don't regret much of anything in my life. I don't regret trying an IUD, but I do kind of regret keeping it in for as long as I did, because after I had it removed and I got home, I felt a little shaky and a little weak, but I can't describe to you how good I felt. It felt like a giant weight, and it still feels like this. It feels like an enormous weight was lifted off of my shoulders. I was laying in bed the rest of the day, just kind of relaxing, and I could move, I could shift, I could move around in bed. I felt like I could do cartwheels. I felt like because the other thing I'm not mentioning is that when I had my cramps, they would be triggered by random things. So exercise that was maybe a little intense, or certain yoga positions, or I would roll around in bed at night if I had cramps, and it's like I couldn't lay on either side because it just made it so much worse. Any physical stuff, I felt it, and it would sometimes during sex, it would be bumped or knocked, and I would feel it would start cramps. It would start up the whole thing. I was living in fear of my cramps because they were so painful, being triggered at the worst moments. And there were so many things I kind of missed out on because I had cramps. Like, this was a photo I sent to my mom of me just laying there. I think it took out my whole evening. And when I got back, it's like I felt like this enormous weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and I was like, I can move. I felt free. It's like I couldn't feel it anymore. And I don't think I was aware of how aware I was consciously and subconsciously of this IUD being inside of me. And I'm not saying that as in like I could feel it, but like it was there. There was something in me. And I really think my body every single month was just trying to expel this thing. My body's registering it's a foreign object. My brain is freaking out. And I just felt like it was putting my body under so much stress. And now it's like I feel so good. It's not supposed to create so much trauma. And I know I'm probably going to get comments like, well, if you were having this kind of pain, why did you keep it for 4 years? And it's like, one, I get where you're coming from, and even I'm kind of like, why did I wait? But it's like, I had awful periods, and this is the thing they recommend to stop awful periods. And if you do have endometriosis, this is also what they recommend to manage pain and to help. I was emotionally kind of attached to it. I was terrified of having it removed. And in the States, you have to pay to have it removed too. And you might be watching this and be in a very similar position to me. You might be experiencing pain that is awful, but that is somewhat something you feel you can manage. And there's a little bug flying around, and I'm gonna murder him because he keeps coming over here. You might be somebody like me who feels that they can manage the pain for all of the benefits of the IUD because it feels like it's worth it compared to the symptoms or issues you might be having, or to have the peace of mind that it's 99% effective against pregnancy. I still think IUDs can be extremely beneficial, but I think there are a couple of key things that someone should know before they get an IUD. Comment, share if you have someone you know that's had an IUD, if you've had a birth control story, or if you're looking to go on birth control, or if you just have an experience or heard of things. I don't want this to be a place that's going to fearmonger anyone away from a certain kind of contraception, but I do want it to be a place where people can share their experiences, because I just wish I could have seen a video of someone being like, yeah, I've had LILETTA for years now, and here's where I'm at. And if you're having that kind of pain, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. I think the hormones in contraception can really affect certain people. Some people aren't affected. Some people hardly will notice, but it's like my body absolutely noticed that I had something in there that was a foreign object, absolutely tried to get rid of it every month, convinced of it, created all this stress in my body, created all these issues for me, made me stressed out, made me anxious, I'm sure it contributed to me having a loss of appetite, contributed to my, sad days, contributed to any anxiety I might have. And now I'm sitting here a week afterwards and I'm like, I feel so good. I feel free. I don't feel that I have this weight on me anymore and this thing in me. And the way I feel physically towards people now has completely shifted, completely changed. I feel like my old self from 4 years ago that is not inhibited by anything. I have desire again for life, for other people, for everything. If you can take anything away from this, just know that you're heard, you're not alone. If you're gonna have an IUD placed, even if you believe, even if you've had kids, anything like that, just ask for pain management, ask to be dilated, ask to be put under if you can, or given local or something. My fear response is just out of control, and I don't want that for anybody else. That is literally awful. I don't want to get into my feelings on if a man had to go through the same thing. It absolutely would not happen. It would be immediately discontinued as like any kind of birth control method. Absolutely would not be even an option. And it's like we're, as women, just forced to endure some of the worst things for no reason. Obviously, again, if you have a condition like endometriosis, IUDs are supposed to be something that can help, but just keep in mind that that kind of cramping is not okay. That kind of pain isn't okay, and you might not find that there's anything wrong with your IUD being there, and like me, you might have a completely clean ultrasound and everything, but listen to your body. It's telling you it doesn't want it there. Don't try to keep it there. Yeah, I hope this was somewhat helpful for somebody. I personally believe LILETTA is evil. I think if you're gonna do a coil, do Mirena or something. I just don't think, I think LILETTA is too new. So I love you guys. And I hope that you have a really great rest of your week, and like this if you like, and yeah, I'll leave a comment, suggestion. I'm always looking for things that you guys want to see. I know this isn't like a commentary video, but I do lifestyle stuff too, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you're new, hi. Nice to meet you. I hope that you'll stick around if you like, and yeah, bye.